Michael Buster McMahon is a dynamic creative force behind short plays adapted for radio and public access television across 3 states. With a passion for storytelling, directing, and acting, he crafts work that range from horror Western mashups, we're definitely going to talk about that, to ghost stories while nurturing talent and community along the way. Michael, welcome. I'm glad you joined us.
Hi, thanks for having us. What's great about the series, it's a complete anthology series. You get some rom-coms, you get, as you said, ghost stories, historical fiction, which is always fun. You never know what you're going to get when you tune into the show.
Yes, it's true. So, I mean, you're exactly the kind of guest we're looking for because you sort of dipped into so many different creative juices here. I mean, you write, direct, produce, you've been an actor, you've worked across different medias, radio, television, film. So I want to talk to you about some of the things you've done, and then we're going to get into nitty-gritty about, well, what was it really like? So you produced and released 13 short play episodes on public access and YouTube. Is that the Western horror?
Yeah, as we're recording this, there's been 13 episodes released. We've got like another 3 in the can, and as soon as they're edited, they're going to get released. They're on 50 public access channels in 3 states, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, and then people can see them on YouTube. The name of the show officially is the Michael Buster McMahon Televised Radio Playhouse and Used Tire Company.
Yeah.
If you're looking on YouTube, if you put like Michael Buster Used Tire Company, it'll probably pop up.
Okay.
Yeah, we're cemented into the title. We got to lug all these used tires into the. I wish we named it the Balloon Company or something. You know, as we're lugging the old tires
We lighter.
and into the horror Western mashup was the last episode 13, which is kind of cool. 13.
Now, did you write? Are these episodes that you've written?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the genesis of a horror Western? You don't hear about that a lot.
A while ago, I know it was that dramatic. Like
Yeah.
friends of mine, they were doing some radio plays, and they wanted to use my murder mystery in one, and we did it, and it was very successful. And they said, "All right, the next time we want to do maybe a Western. Have you ever written a Western?" And I said, "No, but I bet you I could." And so I was working on a Western, and it wasn't really going anywhere. And I've got so many unfinished plays too. And there was one about troops in Afghanistan searching for somebody, and they came across a lot of weird phenomenon. And that story wasn't going anywhere either. And one day I'm like, you know what? Both stories, like this posse's looking for somebody, these soldiers are looking for somebody. I wonder if the stories could be the same.
Mhm.
And it was. It was basically a sort of a horror Western a mashup. This gangster, he's an outlaw. He's trying to go straight, takes a bounty job.
Mhm.
And the guy that they're chasing after is a former minister, former man of God, who apparently hearing all these confessions, yeah, that sounds like a nice lifestyle. So he switches sides too.
Mhm.
And there's something unworldly sort of stalking both of them. It came out really great.
It sounds fascinating. I'm definitely gonna check that out. Tire company.
Episode 13, it's called Blackstone.
Okay. So where do you draw the talent for these kinds of productions? Because it says you're heavily involved in the community.
Yeah, a lot of actors who are in community theater here. My wife's a respected choreographer for a lot of local theaters, so she has been able to bring me a lot of people too. I've known a lot of people from the stand-up comedy world and my own little theater experiences in the area. So between the two, and what's really great is like I invite this person from over here and this person from over here, and when our first rehearsal, they walk in and they're like, "Hey," and of course they know each other because they've done a
Right,
production together
right,
before. So you got sometimes some accidental built-in chemistry right off the bat, which is kind of
right. That's great. Yeah, it is. It's actually I've noticed that since I've just been in the industry for about 5 years. It's a very tightly knit community and it's very supportive. And so
yep,
I know that dynamic when you walk in the room, you're like, oh, there's somebody I know from class or from that production.
yeah.
I don't have a lot about your stand-up comedian days, and I am so fascinated by that.
In the '90s, I opened up for Lisa Lampanelli, Julie Barr, Kevin Knox.
Mhm.
But eventually you get tired of driving an hour and a half for a set amount of money, and you used half of it on gas. And when you get there, you eat, and then and when it's great, it's great. But sometimes it's a rough way to go. I enjoyed it, and sometimes I miss it.
Mhm.
And once in a while, I will do it. I'll just show up somewhere and just to see if I have anything in the tank.
Right.
I always said this is going to happen. It always happens. I go to an open mic, it goes well, so I go to another one, and then I bump into somebody. Goes, "Oh my God, you're still doing this? Hey, I've got this gig in Willimantic, Connecticut. I can't do it. Do you want to do it?" And there's no good way to get to Willimantic, Connecticut. And so you're driving there, and you're like going, "Oh God, why am I doing this again?" And this it happens every time.
Well, it's the passion from within.
Yes.
But I just have a lot of respect for stand-up comedians because you're up there on your own with, the storyline. Well, let me ask you, do you tell a story? Is it a character that's consistent to it, or are you a one-liner kind of guy?
I told stories, they'd go, it was me, a fictionalized version of myself. Generally,
Right.
even after I got married, I was still single in the act because, all the dating stuff, it's funny.
Right.
I've gone to some open mic nights and I said, you know what, I'm going to do it as if I was completely drunk and somebody who forget like some of the punchlines, just for my own, like to mix it up for myself to see if it was fun. And then afterwards, people like, oh my god, you're cold stone sober. We actually thought you were on stage being drunk. I'm like, no, I just, it's Sprite. Sometimes you would just want to mix it up.
Okay, totally reasonable. So, what is so you're in front of the audience and you're behind the curtain sometimes. I mean, do you have a preference where you like to be, or is it whatever dictates?
I really liked becoming a writer. And a lot of times I direct my own stuff just because sometimes who can you trust? I've had people direct my stuff and sometimes it's worked out great. And sometimes it's like, what are they doing? And you complain like, what are you doing? Well, you have no say.
Mhm.
You signed off on this. I'm the director.
Right.
I have to say, and you're just sitting there going, oh, and yeah. So a lot of time, basically, I direct just so I know that what I want to go out there is going out there. But
Right.
a lot of times, because that's how Woody Allen became a director. He was watching his work get butchered, and then he started directing it himself just out of necessity.
Well, I'm sure you know what. I'm sure you're a lot easier behind the director nagging in his ear than Woody Allen ever was.
I think maybe some of our styles are somewhat similar because I think we both give our actors a lot of leeway.
Hmm.
Like a
Hmm.
lot of times I'm like, I have a vision, but you're a respected performer. Let's see your interpretation of it. And if you go too far, I'm going to pull you back. But
Right. Right.
yeah, I give them a lot of leeway.
That's excellent. So, with your community support, it comes from the people you've worked for in the past. Your wife's got a font of talent that she can draw upon based upon her professional position. What about funding? How do you fund your projects? Are you applying for grants, or is it everybody ponying up? How does that go down?
Well, what's great, the public access, we recorded the first two episodes in West Springfield, Massachusetts, and all the other episodes afterwards have been recorded in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and they provide the studio, they provide the cameras.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the public access system is great. More people should take full advantage of it. I mean,
Yeah.
go out there and even if the only thing that each one is asked, like Holyoke says, you can use this studio every time you want. The only thing we ask is we get to broadcast it on our channel. More people should do that.
Right. It's exposure.
Yeah, I got a neat little story I want to do. Go in there, they'll record it, and I don't know if it'll be any good, but that's out there for you to do that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So, I understand you also do casting, and I've recently been like really studious about the casting of productions and watching every character and seeing how perfectly they were selected, or do I have an opinion, Mr. Nobody. But when you're casting, is it really gut and intuition, or is there any kind of formula you use to figure out if this is going to work?
The first time I ever really directed, it was a musical when I was in college, and I had my choreographer on my right side and my music director on the left side. I'm like, I'm thinking of this person for the role. Can they sing it? And they'd be like, no,
Mhm.
you know. And so I kind of like that dynamic. Like I try to do that now, even non musicals. I like to get like, hey, I'm thinking of this person for this. It was funny because back when I did the musical, I wanted a female devil, and we were doing Damn Yankees just because you have more women casting.
Right,
And I said, this is
right.
a way we can do this. And both my choreographer and my music director was like, did you see Tim's audition for the devil? I'm like, yeah, I know, but I want to go like, no, did you see his audition? Yeah, that's our devil. And I don't mind being talked out of something. And a lot of times when we do this, I have a lot of repeat people in the shows, people that I've learned to trust. John Waters has his Dreamlanders, he calls his. Preston Sturges had his troop, and I guess they're Buster's Brigade.
I love it. That's great.
I know that this person, like, I had an actor in one of the shows, and he was just basically filling a part. And then I saw him in something else, and I'm like, oh my God, I am really underusing this guy's talent. So I tried to give him,
Mhm.
more fun roles in future productions, just because I'm like, I just needed somebody to play this sailor, and he did it, and he did a fine job, but it wasn't a part that, he's gonna stand out in, but I'm like, "Damn, I underused him."
You know what? Judi Dench won an Academy Award 7 minutes on film, so, you can stand out quality, not quantity, right?
Absolutely. People forget, like, in the first Beetlejuice movie, like, Michael Keaton's only in the film for, like, 18 minutes or something, and you forget that, you know?
Really?
Yeah, it's I don't remember, like, but it's not very much at all.
That's amazing because he's really good. I mean, you don't see Michael Keaton, you just see Beetlejuice,
Yep.
which I guess is the whole point. So, you've got writing and acting and directing and casting and production. Is there one thing that stands out where you're like, when I walked away from that, it was just perfection. It was just great. I was so pleased how my participation in that project went down.
I had 3 of my, 30-minute plays, and my show it's about half hour long, so sometimes you get a 30-minute story, sometimes you get 2 15-minute stories. I had a production at a local theater group. It was 3 of my 30-minute plays with a encompassing story. A guy basically telling the story saying that, "Hey, live theater has everything that movies can," you know? So, he did a story of a '30s, screwball comedy, the murder mystery, and a '80s teenage sex comp, and,
Which never gets old.
he was upset because, he wanted to do a sci-fi, thing, and, there wasn't the budget, so he's like, "Ugh, we're gonna do this." And, you always hear directors say, "Oh, what an amazing cast," and I'm like, I think sometimes when you have such a great, perfect cast, you almost can't take credit for it. It's an accident, It's just sometimes it just accidentally happens, like, "Damn, these guys were great," and,
Right.
"Boy, I'm quite the caster." Half the time
No, I think you could take a little credit because you know why? When something looks great to the viewer, I'm a designer by trade, and now acting is a new venture for me. But when something looks great, it's because it looks effortless,
Yeah,
and nothing is effortless.
right.
Nothing is effortless. So if the cast was looks great and it's just everyone was in sync, that doesn't happen just because the stars are aligning. Somebody's
I think there is some little bit of luck that does come involved.
I'll grant you that, a little bit of luck.
I mean, talking like, if we're gonna talk about 80 films, like the movie Ghostbusters. There's no way you set out to come up with this horror, comedy, drama. There was no way that you were purposely trying to hit every target. And as perfect as that film is, it had to be an accident.
Right.
You can't possibly set out to make that film and have it come out that good.
Right, right.
There's a happy accident there.
The planets did align because
Yep.
that is a great film. All right, so you can tell me if it's off limits, but can I ask your story slam experience? To
Sure.
precede you a little bit.
Some of the areas they have different kinds, but there's this a local one here in the Springfield area called Story Slam, and I enjoy doing it because as a stand-up comedian, when you're on stage and you have to have a laugh, boom, 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 boom. But Story Slam, sometimes you get mix of stories. People go up there, they'll tell a tragedy. Somebody will tell something else, and I can go up there and I can tell a story. And if there's a joke, if there's a funny bit once a minute,
Mm.
which you can't get away in stand up, the audience enjoys it. I was in a show one time where one person talked about their botched suicide, why they hate their father, their abortion, and I was in the middle telling a funny story, and the person running it hated it, like, "Oh, you stand comedians think this is just ha ha time." I'm like, "No, you kind of need this."
Yeah, a little comic relief never hurt anybody.
So yeah, so the last story, so apparently I am, and I can't appeal this. I've been banned from the local story slam competition because one of my stories the story that I told was a true story, and that's supposed to be true stories. I told a true story that happened a long time ago, and apparently it mirrors a current internet legend. I have no explanation of it other than, because there's other people involved. They were telling the story. Did our story get out? And did it inspire the internet legend, which is a great story slam in itself.
Right, right. So they came to you and they said, "You're an imposter and you're not Story Slam."
Yeah, they said, "We got a couple complaints, and we've looked this up," and they showed me a link to the internet story, and there are a lot of common threads to it, and I have no explanation other than that either it's a very strange coincidence, or maybe this happens a lot more often than people think, and then or maybe our story inspired the legend, which would be cool. But I'm not gonna tell you what story because people will judge me because 'cause they'll say, "Oh, yeah, I've heard that internet story. Yeah, there's no way that happened to you." So,
Alright.
I'm not gonna tell what story it was, but
I think the glory's not in the story, the glory's getting banned.
yeah, I'm banned from a couple casinos too, and I wear that as a badge of honor that there's billion-dollar organizations that are afraid of me. So, that's a yeah, you're right, it's a badge. It's a badge of honor.
Sure. So I wanted to know also, because you worked in multiple medias, radio, TV, film, stage, do you have a preference for one, or does one pose challenges that kind of get under your skin, or how do you weigh all those against one another?
There's nothing like live stage. That inspired everything, that came afterwards. So, I mean,
Right.
there is something. I'm an old school guy. I love to do vaudeville bits. I love to do Abbott Costello routines, except I always use, like, a female Abbott because you're always wondering, like, why are they putting up with each other? But, all right, by incorporating a female straight person, you can say, "Alright, they're a couple."
Right.
And, of course, the female has to be the straight person because, they get to slap me around, which is, you know a little more acceptable on stage than if it was the other way around, and,
Uh-huh.
I always can tell when my female partners are mad at me because they wanna practice some of the scenes.
They really want to
"Yeah,
practice.
let's practice that part where I give you a good slap."
So we've only got time for one more question, but you're clearly a storyteller, and it's like again, stage, radio, film, live, rehearsed. You just love the storytelling. So
Yeah.
can you tell us, like, do you know where that came from, or has it always been that way, or your whole life, or is there a story you really, really want to tell that you haven't told yet?
Yeah, I guess well, in college, I wrote a musical to, impress a woman. When I was a 19-year-old boy, do anything, right?
Right.
Figured any smoke could give her a flower. I wrote her a full-length, libretto. And I kinda like to see the story come to life, and
Mhm.
many years later, I started, writing them, and I didn't even know why, and then this became doing the public access and putting them on YouTube. I'm like, "Alright, well, maybe 100 years from now, somebody will find them. Students will have to be forced to watch these things and wonder what my symbolism and my meaning is, behind it." And, like I said, we don't know much about this guy, Michael Buster McMahon, but he clearly had some issues, you know?
Yeah. Now, where did that Buster come from
That's right.
anyway? Before we leave, and we're way over time, where did Buster come from?
I attribute to Buster Keaton, one of the greatest entertainers of all time. When I was younger, I was in a lot of musicals, and at the time, I was a lousy dancer and I couldn't sing, but I knew how to fall down. And so they always gave me I was Fred Casely in Chicago because he gets shot and falls down, I mean, they've thrown me off stages, and I've fallen off ladders, and Buster just seemed like learn where your cushy parts are and you land on 'em. That was the key to a good prop fall.
Well, you fall down, but you get back up, just like the song says. So
You.
it's a pleasure having you on the podcast,
Hey, this was fun.
and I hope you had a good time. We're going to hopefully have a lot of our viewers try and seek you out and listen and see some of your productions. And I'm sure they're as clever in life as they are on this tape recording.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you.